It's absolutely gorgeous. Look at this. I don't know if you can see the temperature, but the temperature is amazing. So we're out here, beautiful, beautiful night here in Dallas, Texas. One thing I want to talk about today is the dilemma of gear and having too much or having too little. One of the things that I struggled with when I was starting out was having that mentality that you need better gear. You need the best gear, or not necessarily the best gear, but just better than what you have, because I think there's a certain point where you can have all the pieces of gear in the world and it's not going to help you improve your shot or get the shot that you want. For example, one thing I struggle a lot with, this is anytime I go out to take photos, when it's not for work, so I want to be perfectly clear about that, but when I go out to take photos for me, for Instagram, for any other of my personal projects, is trying to figure out what camera I'm going to use. Right now I'm shooting on the 7D Mark II. Perfectly capable camera, don't get me wrong, but for stuff like right now that I'm shooting a lot of low angle stuff and a lot of just long exposure that I don't need to be around the camera for. It doesn't have that flip screen. The 70D is an exceptional camera, don't get me wrong. It's a little bit old, I know, but it has that tilty flippy screen that's oh so desirable when you don't want to lie down on the floor. So is it the better camera of the two? Is the 7D Mark II better than the 70D? Of course it is. Specs wise, it's definitely the better camera. So why didn't I bring the 70D? That's because my brain is telling me take the better camera. You need to use the better camera because you're gonna get a better shot with the better camera. And that's not always the case. In fact, that's rarely the case.
Do you wanna follow? Baby, do you wanna follow? Come with me. Do you wanna follow?
Of course, I am saying that with a little bit of an asterisk. Better glass, better camera, better sensor is definitely going to be very beneficial. It's going to help you a ton when it comes to getting the shot that you want. Don't get me wrong, I'm not saying that better gear doesn't equal better photos, because technically speaking, it should. But you can have all the gear in the world, all the gear that you want ideally, and it still won't help you compose and tell the story that you are trying to tell. That's going to take a little bit more artistry and more, not necessarily know-how, but more emotion, if you will, to tell your story. And gear isn't always necessarily the thing that's going to hold you back. So this is the EOS M, or EOS M, depending on what part of the country you're from or what part of the world you're from. This is my, this is kind of the entry into my photography skills and know-how and professional life, if you will. I use this for a lot of product photography. So everything that you see on my LM Studios Instagram, like the shirts and like anything that I've made, it was probably taken with this. So what we're gonna do tonight is I'm gonna switch over just to this camera. So I'm gonna note everything in the bottom corner. I don't know which one, we'll figure it out together. But all the video and all the stills that I post will be from this camera from now on until otherwise noted. So let's swap out. And we are back. So a couple of quick caveats that I failed to mention beforehand. So this is the EOS M, of course, but this is the 22 mil f2. It gets really nice depth of field at f2, but the caveat with that is there is no IS on this lens or on this camera. So some of the video is a bit on the shaky side. I did get it as still as I possibly could for walking around and trying to kind of rush through the construction that is Dallas, Texas. But stills wise, we're just talking about stills right now. We're not talking about video because this is not the greatest video camera, but stills wise, you coming up? Coming up? Stills wise, I am still able to accomplish a lot of what I would normally do with either the 70D or the 70 Mark II that we are on right now. If you take a look at the shot that I got of the dart train going past at a long exposure, that's more or less kind of the shot that I wanted to get. The shot that I would have gotten with this camera if I had strictly stuck to this camera. But I was perfectly capable of getting that same shot with this EOS M, which is currently, I think, 200 bucks on eBay, maybe less with the kit lens if you want to buy it used or even new in box. So getting back to my point initially, it's not necessarily going to be the gear that you have. There's no denying that gear does help. I'll be honest in saying that it is a lot easier for me to shoot on the 7D Mark II than it is on the 70D, and it's also easier for me to shoot on the 70D than it is to shoot on the EOS M, but that isn't necessarily due to the camera. It's more learning the limitations and the benefits of a specific tool, be it this for its size and its portability, the 70D for its flip screen and its relatively portability, it's a lot lighter than this one, or the 7D Mark II for its lightning fast shutter and its dynamic range. It's got a much better sensor than those two other cameras. Getting back to my point that I was attempting to make, so don't let the gear that you have put any restrictions on you. If you have a lot of gear, I don't have the most amount of gear. I'm not by far someone who has a massive amount of cameras in various gears. I have a lot, don't get me wrong, but it's not like I'm walking around with a 1DX or anything like that. Don't let the gear restrict what you do creatively. I do have a big problem maintaining that mentality, but it's something I am actively working on. So I want to actively shoot more with the EOS M and leave this here, or use the 70D more and leave this here, or a combination of any of the three. One of the other tools that I don't use and I neglected to mention was the GoPro Hero 5, I believe. It's something that I've stopped using mainly because I haven't been as happy with the footage as I am with like a Canon camera. But there is certainly a time and a use for it, and I need to break out of that kind of focused mentality where I'm only going to use the 70 Mark II for everything I do because it's the best camera that I have, and go back to the way it was before using my pocket camera or the EOS M. So go with the flow a little bit more, try to relax, see what you can get done by going down a peg or switching out your tools. Get out of your comfort zone a little bit, boost that ISO up to 1200 plus, see what you can get away with. You'd be surprised at what you can do when you put a few more restrictions on yourself. You tend to make things happen when you're restricted. But don't forget about gear, because I'm gonna be honest with you, having gear is fun. Alright guys, if you learned anything, then fascinating. I don't think I really tried to teach anything properly. I'm not a good teacher. If you had fun watching the video though, please make sure to hit the like button. If you're subscribed, cool, hit that bell notification thing. That way you'll get a little blip thing every time I put up a video. If you're not subscribed, you should probably just go ahead and subscribe. I honestly don't know what I'm doing here. I just make videos when I want of things that I want to make videos about. Anyway, you know what to do. Like, share, subscribe, do all that fun stuff. Work hard, make stuff, and always be creating. Clap.
Do you wanna follow? Baby.